And it's been a particularly rough week with the anti-white stuff. We saw that advertisement for that television show, I think it's on CBS, called The Good Fight, where they're talking about punching white nationalists or neo-Nazis or whatever. There was something, a Netflix show where they're talking about straight white men being canceled. So I'm already kind of triggered. As an angry, young, angsty white American, I'm already kind of rustled this week. And then I see Michael Moore, the film director, Fat Michael Moore, tweeting something out about white people and their privileged, tired culture are over. And some pretty nasty things about white people in general. And every time I come across this, it just blows me away. It really does feel like we're living in a funhouse mirror at a carnival sometimes. Don't you understand the extent to which the wheels are coming off? Does anybody understand how bad that is for a society? It truly is a postmodern civilization. People throw that term around a lot. I don't think they actually know what it means. We really are losing our grip on reality as it is, because I look at a tweet like this, and this is not the first of its kind. You've seen this all over the place, and it comes from Hollywood celebrities, it comes from news people, it comes from everywhere, and the message is the same. The white man is over. The white man in America is over. The white man in the world is over. You're over, and your culture's over. A lot of it was implicit for a long time. We heard this kind of stuff from, I think Oprah said something to the effect years ago about how we have to just wait for these racists to die off, something like that. Barack Obama had some choice words about white America, which it was all very implicit, on Fox News and the other stations. But now it's just all out in the open. I mean, they're telling you, somebody like Michael Moore, yeah, the white man is over. I mean, that's what he says. White people and their culture are over. And you have that on the one hand, which would be bad enough as it is. Yeah, like white people are over. And of course, look at the statistics. Look at the fertility rates. Look at the rate of immigration. Look at the census data. Look at the Gallup polls. I mean, it's totally unambiguous. The country has become less white. It will continue to become less white. And that's the case globally. That's true in every white country, right? So he acknowledges it. The data is there. But then at the same time, go on Wikipedia, do yourself a favor and open up Wikipedia in another tab right now and look up white genocide. Because under the Wikipedia page for the white genocide theory, it says white genocide is a neo-Nazi, white supremacist, white nationalist, white supremacist, alt-right, identitarian conspiracy theory. It's kind of a mouthful, right? It's a conspiracy theory, and this conspiracy theory says that white people, due to low fertility rates and high immigration, will eventually go extinct due to assimilation or violent genocide. It's like, so we're kind of living in two worlds here, because we saw the last century, if that was the fire, world wars, economic recessions, revolutions, communism. And now what do we have in the end of history? What do we have in the last 30 years? An international competition to rebuild a better spire, an original design. I wonder what it'll look like. Maybe it'll just be a giant dildo. Yeah, maybe it'll just be a giant black dildo. And I don't know, maybe that'll just say something about racism. It's art. I don't know. Some Jewish queer person in a university in America designed it. So maybe they'll just, yeah, what a great idea. Maybe they'll just slap a big black dildo right on top. I wouldn't be surprised at this point. Maybe it'll be a big glass spire, something shiny. Maybe it'll be a robot. Maybe it'll be a drone. Who knows? But I think we look at that, and there was so much talk about this Notre Dame Cathedral burning down, so much talk about symbolism, and talk about the gravity and the implications of something like that burning down. And I think you have to consider, again, what constitutes the worst tragedy. Why can't you just rebuild the one that was there? If it's not broke, don't fix it. The whole reason that the whole thing didn't cave in is because medieval architecture was designed to withstand fires. They say that the flying buttresses that supported the walls surrounding the cathedral were the reason that the whole thing didn't cave in. And actually, the reason they invented the flying buttress was to fireproof the building. So you think about the genius that went into that design. Why are we going to try and reinvent it? Why do we have to subject it to all these kooky liberal games? What are we going to put it to a vote in the United Nations and do something at the Olympics? We'll spin a big wheel. We'll have a clown dancing around. And like I said, it'll end up being a glass dildo or something. Why can't you just make it what it was before? They have to reinvent the wheel here. This cathedral was burning for hours. It's an 850-year-old cathedral, 850 years old. Now, there's a lot of wood in there. There's a lot of other flammable materials. And it burned for hours. And the building didn't collapse. Something to think about. Something to think about. 850 years old. It's made of 13,000 trees and other flammable material. It's burning for hours. It's almost 1,000 years old. It doesn't collapse. It remains. Fire doesn't even spread to the rest of it. It didn't collapse. Just something to think about. Now, I don't know. I guess there was no jet fuel in there. Okay, I guess there was no jet fuel in the cathedral, but that's all I'm saying. Okay, just a little food for thought. So that's the last thing I'll say about Notre Dame. I'm not saying anything. Okay, I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying it's really interesting that that they were okay, right? I guess it was an act of God, huh? And what is the approval rating for the tax cut? 74% of respondents in this poll said the new tax law had no impact on their tax bill or forced them to pay more. 3/4 of the country says the big tax cut, which remember we used that very arcane Senate rule to pass with a simple majority, couldn't do that for wall funding, but we could do that for the tax cuts. That tax cut, 3/4 of the country said it made no difference or they paid more, which is unacceptable that they would even say that because it probably isn't even true. Now, we don't know. We don't have any data on that. The Treasury Secretary says, a family earning $74,000 should at least have $2,500 in tax savings. We don't really know what the data looks like yet, but it's unacceptable either way. It really doesn't matter what the facts are if the perception is in 3/4 of the population that it made no difference or they're paying more, then it was a failure, right? It didn't matter one way or the other. If it's a good economy, if it's a bad economy, people ask me that a lot. Is the recovery real? Do people perceive it as real? Clearly not. I hear the slogan, Keep America Great. That's the one he's been trotting out lately. In 2016, it was Make America Great Again. In 2020, it's going to be Keep America Great. And I heard this little conversation I was having with QAnon earlier today and some friends. This actually vindicates everything that the left said about President Trump. Because we look across the board at the economy, we look at foreign policy, we look at immigration. Immigration we've covered for 2 weeks. It's worse than ever. It's worse than under Obama, without a doubt. It may be as bad or worse than George W. Bush. So immigration, we know. Foreign policy, they're just talking about today how Kim Jong-un is testing new missiles. We're basically laying the groundwork for a war with Iran. We're in Syria indefinitely. We're in Iraq indefinitely. We're in Yemen indefinitely, which we'll get to towards the end of this show. Then we look at the economy. We look at the tariffs, the trade situation. That hasn't improved since he got into office. Didn't even ratify the USMCA. We look at tax cuts. It happened, but to what benefit for normal Americans? Just about every way you slice it. And that's not even to mention the censorship, electoral problems for Republicans, and so on. Every way you slice it, we are maybe at the same place we were in 2016, and there's a pretty strong case to be made that in every metric, it's gotten worse than we were in 2016. Yet he says, keep America great. What does that tell you? This vindicates what the left said, which was that it was never about America. It was about this vanity project for this sick man. It hurts me to say that. It hurts me to say that. You know I have great personal affection for the president. You know I was a big supporter in 2016 and right up until very recently, right up until the funding bill. But what does it tell you that we're going to trot out this slogan now to campaign in 2020? The expectation is we're going to dutifully line up for the rallies and campaign and so on under the slogan, Keep America Great. The country has not been made great again, right? And you could say, well, it's sloganeering, it's politics. To me, it's profoundly insulting because what is required to make this administration saleable in 2020 is lies. The only way that you could run on this record is simply by lying about it. And you're already seeing that happening on the border. He says, finish the wall. Finish the wall hasn't even been started. Hasn't even been started. We got, the government emergency money, $1 billion allocated from the Pentagon. We still haven't even broken ground on a single mile of new border barrier, fence, let alone wall. So that's just one example where the only way that this administration is defensible and, again, saleable in 2020 to get another 4 years is just simply to lie about it. The border wall is being built. Tax cuts are working. Foreign policy is, well, at least I went to North Korea or, whatever. At least I went to Hanoi and Singapore. Jared Kushner has come in. Sort of a story too often told, a Jared Kushner-like figure who comes in behind the scenes and just kind of wrecks everything. A Jared Kushner-like character who, through less than honest means, less than merit, works his way into the system, weasels his way in there, and just kind of breaks everything, just kind of finds a way where everything he touches just kind of turns to complete shit. And that's what's been allowed to happen. And so you had a great opportunity, sort of like the Notre Dame. In a way, it's actually symbolic, the Notre Dame, don't you think? In a way, you had this great administration, such great hopes, such great aspirations, and now just look at it. Every day, look at it. It's reflected in the policy. It's reflected in the polling. And so he'll be lucky if he gets elected by the skin of his teeth. I think there's one possible path forward for him, and that's if the Democrats rip each other to pieces and they put up somebody who's not viable. They put up somebody who's wildly unpopular, or maybe they have, some bad scandal, or they're not a good campaigner. It's the Democrats' race to lose at this point. So we're really going to go hard for. We'll try and get him reelected because what's the alternative? We're going to vote for a gay man or a black woman or whatever else? I don't think so. And even worse still, the new chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, just totally bends over for Kushner. I guess they say that John Kelly, although he was no good, was at least like a man, and he would stand up to Kushner, and if he didn't like something, he would say no, and he would, shut down some things. But Mulvaney just seems to be, and this is what I've heard, totally letting Kushner just dominate the administration, and it shows. Basketball says, I can't wait for the USA to become Brazil and Muslims. The Muslim thing isn't a problem in America. I don't know why. It's so stupid to me how conservatives are always like, Sharia law is coming to America. It's like Jews already, well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that at all. Jews already are our closest allies. We already have a non-Abrahamic religion who are our best friends. That's what I was getting at. Yeah, that's where I was going with that one. We already have a non-Abrahamic religion who are our closest allies. Right? So I don't know why people are looking for a new best friend, and Muslims, we already got Judeo-Christian. Oh, come on, just kill me already, all right? I know what's going on. I know what's going on. What I wanted to say there. Whatever. Are we still on the air? Is YouTube still allowing this broadcast to be streamed? Well, you get what I'm saying. You know the picture. People complaining about Sharia law. It's like we got to worry about Talmudic law, basically. Okay, if you want to know the truth. Frankly, who are the ones complaining about Sharia law? It's the Zionist Federation of San Francisco. It's the Jewish Federation of San Francisco. It's like, I don't know if they're the ones of the Federation. Maybe they're the ones we got to be worried about their influence, right? All these large, shadowy Jewish organizations. Sharia law coming to our shores. It's like, wait a second, where'd you get all this money? And they're like, oh, I don't know. We got to get out of town. So, let's look at the bigger picture. The whole Southwest is Mexico now. You look at California, you look at Arizona, New Mexico, it's like all Mexico. And you look at all the major cities, they've got little Mexico. So, is the Sharia law thing the problem? I don't know. So, in short, I love all people. Everybody's equal. And, the real problem in this country is white men, the white working class. Okay, is that good enough? Usually it's a government informant saying, we're not going to vote our way out of this. Right, my fellow fasci goy? Buy an unregistered handgun from me in the parking lot. That's always the move. But the sentiment alone, without the weird connotation, is true. We are not going to vote our way out of this. You're going to have to do your part. Everybody's going to, sorry, hate to burst your bubble, but live a sensible, modest lifestyle. That's it. Get married, don't have promiscuous sex, have lots of children, be financially responsible, live within your means. And that's all. That's all. It's not white pill, it's not black pill, that's That's just a pill. That's the life pill.